Hello all. My name is Jeremy Wight. Excited to meet you all. I see some faces that I recognize here. If you took a look at the title of this and wondered, what are we going to be talking about? That's a totally fair response. So I'll start off by asking a question of the audience, and that is, if you care about doing something impactful with your job, with your role, with your skills within your life, would you raise your hand? Okay, great. Then hopefully this might be applicable to you, or at least somebody you know. And this is, could a nonprofit be your startup superpower? So there's a bunch of stuff on there, not that important, but I have been in the technology space for about 20 years. I've founded a couple of companies. One of them was bootstrapped, one of them was VC backed. I haven't been here in this group for quite a while, but a long time ago, I was a part of an awesome group of people within this direct community that helped create the Trolley Tracker app, if anybody remembers that. That was built by Code for Greenville by me, Jim, some other people in the community, like a handful, Pam. And it's now completely obsolete because technology continues to roll on. But at the time, that was a community-led project to track the downtown trolley when you didn't know where it was going to be. And it really did actually affect change. And I am passionate about bringing people together to create products that provide tremendous value for people. And I can do that in a for-profit context, and I currently find myself in a nonprofit context, which is not something I've experienced before, but I believe that what I have learned through this experience is that there is an actual superpower aligned with this entity type that I think that people may not be aware of. And that's what I want to expose through today's conversation. So this is like how the actual corporate structure that you choose shapes your potential for impact and what I have learned along the way. So I'll talk about Care Message, not because it's super relevant, but it'll help illuminate some of these things. So I am the Chief Technology at Care Message. We have the largest patient engagement platform for low-income people in the United States. So we were started in 2012. The co-founders, Vineet Singhal and Cecilia Corral, met at Stanford and started out of Stanford. They started as a kind of somewhat more traditional nonprofit in that they were donation and grant kind of funded, but they had a technology bent. I won't go into that backstory because that could take 15 minutes on its own, but they started supporting free and charitable clinics, student-run clinics, with helping students to engage through SMS and voice-based messaging. And this is scaled from here to where we've reached over 20 million low-income patients in the United States, in almost every state in the union, multiple territories. We've exchanged almost 500 million messages between low-income individuals and their safety net providers since 2012. And I get the distinct opportunity to oversee all of our software and product development across the world. 0.03% of all nonprofits are tech-enabled nonprofits. That is like a crazy statistic. So of the 2 million roughly US registered nonprofits in the United States, around 500 reference themselves as tech-enabled. And the thing about technology is that technology enables scale, right? It enables you to reach things. Not every nonprofit should fit this model, but more should. And this is what one of the things that I'm passionate about is helping to expand the horizons of individuals who have a passion to solve challenges within their communities and help you to understand how to resource yourself to be able to reach the maximum. Kind of like what Phil was talking about earlier, but in just a slightly different context. So what I used to believe, based on my background, was that essentially nonprofits were, just organizations that operated through asking for funds and donations. I didn't even fully understand how significant the grant space is, but I don't come from a public background. I come from a tech background, so that was foreign to me. I assumed that if you wanted to really scale, you needed the dollars available through venture capital or large institutional investment. And I really thought that the structure of the entity that you created was really more of a legal or operational detail than a strategic decision that should be made. And having been at Care Message now for 4 years, I have changed, it has changed my vision of that. And now I realize that actually a nonprofit entity type actually can be a true superpower and unlock things that are unavailable to your standard for-profit business. So our start at Care Message, this predates me, but we were technology driven, or technology first, but donation driven. So we started with working with student-run clinics and free and charitable clinics, and had a model where we would get donors to align with our vision. This is kind of fairly standard nonprofit, like, you believe in what I'm doing, you're going to help fund our work. The thing that we did really well was we had a distribution model via technology that enabled that scale, but we didn't have the dollars or the durability that a traditional for-profit company enabled, or the access to capital that VCs offered that would allow us to expand that scale. And so there was this challenge that existed that limited the availability of the impact of the offering that existed at that time. And then everything changed when our co-founders were invited to Y Combinator. So they were Y Combinator. I didn't even understand how this worked, but probably most people are familiar with YC. It's one of the most kind of well-known startup incubators in the United States, one of the most successful for sure. I didn't even understand that they did this with nonprofits. Now, they don't do it with a ton of nonprofits, but they actually, there is a program where YC typically would give you an investment as a for-profit business and take a small, maybe like 15% stake in the company or something like that. But with nonprofits, they have a program where they literally just give you money, but you go through the exact same program. And our co-founders went through this program with a mix of for-profit and nonprofit companies. And the big inflection point that came from that was they posed the idea, why don't you create a product? You have a product that works, that's impacting these free and charitable clinics. Did you know, they did this through research, they identified markets, this is what YC does. They're like, there's what's called a federally qualified health centers. These are safety net healthcare providers that serve the same populations, but they actually, through Medicaid predominantly, they get access to funds through the federal government. You could sell a product to them. They have enough money to actually pay you, which would enable you to create a durable product that would expand its impact, its ability to reach people, and also make it a long-term company. So that was really kind of the genesis of this creation of a new type of nonprofit that was both tech-enabled, that reached the scale, but also had a financial model that was much more durable. And so why would you want to change? Well, the traditional nonprofit model, it can be great, but it is finicky. If you talk to founders, I talk to executive directors of nonprofits, if you don't have the funds, all of a sudden it's like you start putting your own money in, your own time in, long hours, all those sorts of things. And eventually it leads to burnout. Well, what happens to your mission? Well, eventually you either have to find another way, or sadly, a lot of these fizzle or don't reach the maximum potential that they could. Also, when you have a service-based business, like business or offering, it limits the amount of scale that you can offer. And that is the promise of technology, right? It's like AI is everywhere. Well, it can impact all these things. That is what technology does. And so if we can infuse more technology into the delivery of the outcomes that nonprofits can give, whether that's in climate or social justice or whatever it might be, we can expand the impact, and that's what technology enables. And finally, again, the operations of that aren't limited to that fragility, that fragile model of kind of a donation driven. And so these were all reasons for us to change. So ultimately, like, technology offers the leverage, product revenue offers durability, and the nonprofit structure preserves the mission alignment. And that, I think, is a key point, because if you have ever run a company that has investors, at some point, it doesn't matter what your mission is, to some degree, you will have to figure out a way to bring returns back to those investors. And that's traditional scale. Again, I led a VC-backed company. I've had lots of board meetings, and it's not that it's bad, it's just the realities. They've given you money, they expect returns. So the fact that you can have a nonprofit structure in a technology type of organization enables you to remain laser focused on that mission. And when those conversations happen in board meetings, yes, revenue is important. Yes, those things are, financials are important, but ultimately the mission can stay central. A second thing that I've learned is that there's capital that you can access. I mean, we're probably amongst, I won't talk specific budgets, but we're probably in the top tier of the amounts of money raised from VC, or excuse me, from large philanthropic investors. But what I've learned is that if you can demonstrate impact at scale, there is money that is available through philanthropies, whether it be large foundations like Google, OpenAI, all sorts of things like this, that will invest in those things because they have a philanthropic arm that wants to reach that kind of maxim, and they are aligned with technology. And so if you're able to do that, there's actual dollars that for-profit entities can never access that is available to you if you understand and can develop those relationships. And that's the second thing. It's not just the capital. One of those things is doors open differently. When I was a founder of a for-profit company, everyone is very helpful when you ask, but I can tell you when you come and say, hey, we're a nonprofit, here's what we're doing, we've reached a scale, I need an intro, I'd like advice, almost everyone says yes. And when I say almost everyone, I've talked to CTOs and CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and they will give you time, unlike what would happen in a for-profit context. And the last thing is we all understand, if you're hiring people right now, mission alignment is critical to both acquire and retain talent. In particular with younger generations, they care much more about the impact that they drive with their time and their talents. And so by having a true mission aligned entity, you can hire the best and retain the best, even sometimes when you're not paying as much as some of the high-end tech entrepreneur companies. So there are other advantages that open up by having this mission alignment. So who should consider this? If you are driving an entity, or if you have a mission that is trying to do something that has long time horizons, has social impact, might require different types of advisors or dollars, I think you should really consider the nonprofit entity type, because I'm telling you, if you're only thinking about a for-profit company, you are missing out on potential that is available there for you to drive the good and move the mission along. So finally, if your mission is durable impact, is your corporate structure holding you back? And so I'll leave that question to the audience. If you are an entrepreneur trying to build something of this type, is that holding you back? And with that, thank you. And I guess I have a minute or two for questions.
Jeremy, when you guys decided to go nonprofit, did you go the 501c3 route immediately, or were you fiscally sponsored for a time before going 501c3?
Yeah, so the question was, did we start as a 501c3 or did we go there? So we did start as a 501c3. And again, we started with a tech kind of focus, but it was kind of a more traditional nonprofit model.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I've worked for a 501c3 for 18 years, and you're right on my soapbox. Because we do $1 million in revenue every year.
Yeah.
We do not ask us for a single dime from anybody. And so it can be done. But the question, as an entrepreneur, I've wrestled with whether I want to do this or not. And my question that comes up for me is, you lose control. So in a 501c3 situation, you've got a board. And if you are the entrepreneur, you're probably more like the executive director position. And you have no control over your organization.
So I did cut a couple slides for time. The question was, what about maintaining control when you're in a nonprofit and the board structure? This happens in regular for-profit companies as well. So that I would say, like, it's actually not different. Ultimately, you hopefully get to choose who the makeup of the board. And I think that there is a dynamic there of trying to develop that and find the right people. And I'd love to talk about that because we have gone through multiple iterations of your board, but there is a higher governance. I will say it's not quite as fast. There are some things that also, but if you're trying to make something that's a long time horizon, that's more durable, I think that you see those advantages in nonprofit type.